Hey everyone, welcome to On Tap. I'm Chris, your host, and today we are going to be talking about one of California's most prolific breweries, Lagunitas. The company was founded in 1993 by Tony McGee in the town of Lagunitas, California, hence the name of the brewery. But almost immediately, McGee moved operations to nearby Petaluma, California, which is about just under 40 miles or just over 60 kilometers north of San Francisco, where the company has been based ever since. Like many brewers in the 1990s, McGee was becoming enamored by a style of beer that, though created by the British originally, was increasingly becoming a defining characteristic of contemporary American craft beer, the IPA or India Pale Ale. Some might argue that Lagunitas' success and expansion as a company helped fuel this growth and interest in American craft brewers drinking these characteristic hoppy beers. Throughout the 1990s and into the early 2000s, Lagunitas was one of the fastest growing American craft breweries. And this was helped by their very aggressive expansion and scaling up of their operations. Not only did they have a major brewery in Petaluma, California, they also constructed a very large brewery in Chicago, Illinois, and that helped them much better serve the market of the eastern US. In 2013, Lagunitas was the 5th largest American craft brewery in the nation, and by this point it was having a pretty noticeable effect on American craft beer culture, which gets us to today where, spoiler alert, it's technically not an American craft brewery at all. Why? Well, because in 2015, the Heineken Corporation purchased a 50% stake in Lagunitas, and in 2017, Heineken bought the rest of the company. So yeah, Lagunitas is now officially a 100% owned subsidiary of the Heineken Corporation. The company does pretty good business at the moment. They sell around 915,000 barrels of beer US every year, and that's sold in 35 countries around the world. Now, Lagunitas did run into some issues in 2018 and 2020 where there were a set of layoffs, and it was probably because of the restructuring of the company following the Heineken acquisition. But it's not all doom and gloom. The Lagunitas IPA is still the best-selling single brand of IPA beer in the United States currently, and in 2020, they still had positive sales growth. Lagunitas is also a very 420 friendly company, and for those of you who don't know, 420 means it has to do with cannabis, otherwise known as marijuana, otherwise known as pot, otherwise known as weed. It's got a bunch of names. And while this got the company into some trouble in the past, depending on where the beer was being sold, I wouldn't imagine in California since 2016 they've had any issues, since that was the year cannabis was legalized in the state of California. And I also say that because they now sell, just within the state of California, a new zero alcohol DHT infused beer called Hi-Fi Hops. I wouldn't imagine there are also issues on the rest of the US West Coast, plus 8 more US states, DC, and all of Canada, places in which cannabis is legal. So what kind of beer does Lagunitas actually make? Well, I would define Lagunitas as a brewery that's somewhere between American craft breweries that are really not at all defined by a single most popular beer and breweries that are defined by a single flagship beer. I would argue something like Sam Adams. That means that there are certain Lagunitas beers that you're gonna find very easily in grocery stores, and then others that are gonna be a little bit more boutique, but it's gonna be more of a spectrum rather than sort of a binary yes-no situation, common versus rare. Though if I did have to pick a single Lagunitas beer that's probably most representative of the company, it would probably be the Lagunitas IPA. This is going to be by far and away the easiest Lagunitas beer you will find in stores, and as I talked about, this is currently the best-selling single IPA beer in the United States, and the best-selling beer for the company, making it their flagship beer. The Lagunitas IPA is of course going to be very hoppy, but that's also going to be balanced out with more of a caramel maltiness, which is kind of in contrast to a lot of American IPAs, which often will have sort of a fruity or more specifically citrusy flavor. The second most common Lagunitas beer, it would be the Little Something, which is a Sumpin' Ale, which is kind of its own thing. So it's a beer that's got some wheat in it, but it's also very hoppy and dry. So it's kind of like a combination between an IPA and a Hefeweizen, or a German wheat beer, without really being defined by either one. It's also very recognizable by the 1940s style pinup girl on the label. You know, the kind of thing you'd see on the nose of a B-17 bomber flying missions during World War II over occupied Europe. I honestly don't know of another beer that has that type of a logo, which is pretty cool. So aside from the IPA and the Little Something, Lagunitas does make a number of other beers, which include Hazy Something. This is going to be most similar to the Little Something, but it's going to be a bit more hoppy. It's unfiltered, hence the hazy appearance. Hop stupid. I wonder what that could mean. Yeah, I suspect this is going to be a beer with a hop overload. It's going to be seriously dry, probably a lot of floral notes, and while apparently there are some malty undertones in the beer, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find them. They might just be hiding in fear from all of the hops, but we shall see. Maximus. This is described by the company as being, quote, an IPA on steroids. It is an imperial IPA and should knock your socks off acceptably well. It apparently is so dry and has so much hops in it that it also can take the enamel off of your teeth. Still no word though on how it's related to the fictional Roman general and protagonist of the movie Gladiator as portrayed by Russell Crowe. Now it's time to try some Lagunitas beer. Without any further ado, let's start with the classic Lagunitas India Pale Ale, the best-selling IPA in the United States. Taking a look at this. Yeah, okay, so very yellowy gold color. All right. Yep, okay, getting some dry notes there. And yeah, so I think the description of the beer as being pretty hoppy, but not very citrusy or with sort of strong, tangy kind of fruit notes is very accurate. It's an interesting combination of some floral hops, not even super floral, just kind of dry hoppiness with undertones of a more malt flavor to it. So it's pretty balanced and it's, I'd say overall, quite easily drinkable. This isn't a strong kind of punching you in the face type of IPA. It makes sense why sales of this are quite high because it's very easy to drink and I could see plenty of people, both fans of IPAs as well as people who find IPAs to be fine, but it's maybe not their go-to drink of choice. Next up, we have the Little Something. Very similar color to the IPA. Kind of a middle, golden yellow. Little bit weaker hop notes on this. Yeah, it doesn't have quite as strong of a aroma, but this is much brighter. But there's that hops worked into it. It really is an interesting amalgamation of underlying dry, more sort of floral hoppy notes, but there aren't too many there. And then you've got more of that kind of classic lager flavor there. And then you also have a little bit of a spicy flavor if you didn't think of spice as like a hot kind of burning sensation, but like a seasoning, you know, kind of like a little seasoning. It's not citrusy, it's not like orange or lemon. Moving on to the next beer, the Little Something Hazy. Definitely hazier. Yep, definitely the haziest of the three. Similar color, and that kind of makes sense, you know, kind of a golden yellow color, but a lot more translucent. Definitely there's still more of that kind of, you know, all of the elements from the grains that haven't really been filtered out of the beer as it's been produced. And so you've got this kind of, well, hazy color to it. Let's take a taste. I quite like that, actually. That's very smooth, I would say. And again, it might just be my personal preference, right? I prefer things that are gonna be less hop overload, a little bit more kind of balanced, smooth, different things going on. Yeah, I wouldn't actually say this is particularly more hoppy than the regular Little Something. In fact, of the three, I'd say this is the least hoppiest. A little heavier, maltier kind of beer, less bright note. It's a little bit more subtle, the flavors, the way they kind of combine. There's not stuff like popping off in your mouth the same way that you have for these two. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've gone through the three normal beers. It's now time to continue our hoppy adventure, which so far has had some hops, but it's not been the most hoppy adventure one could have. That is, until now. Starting with our final two contestants, the Hop Stupid. And let's see how stupidly full of hops this beer is. Yeah, it's golden, but it's a golden orange. It's the darkest hued beer of the three. so far. Interesting color. I don't know what I was expecting, but an orange beer like this, yeah, interesting. I mean, I know plenty of IPAs are like that, especially the stronger type ones. Yep, okay, I can smell some dry floral notes on that really strongly. Yep, definitely coming off the top there. All right, let's give it a taste. Yep, okay, that's got some hops to it. That is, wow, that's, okay, oh wow, that's really dry. If you are a serious IPA drinker, I'm gonna guess you will really like this beer. But this one is very hoppy, it's very dry, it's very floral. I mean, my mouth is still, there's still kind of some tingling elements there. Definitely a solid medium body on this. It's got more viscosity. It's more viscous than these two, and even in a way kind of this one, where it sort of is like clinging to my palate after I've drank it. And so it's like it's not going away. Like I still have this really, really strong floral hoppy sense that's just hanging out in my mouth, and it's not going away at all. It's time for the ultimate hop challenge, the battle in the Colosseum, Maximus. And just as Commodus and Maximus do battle with one another to the death in the Colosseum, in the penultimate scene of Gladiator, let's see if I can survive having the enamel melted off of my teeth. I would say even a slightly darker orange. Not by a lot, but maybe a very slightly darker orange. About the same though as the Hop Stupid. Here goes nothing. I'm surprised. I mean, this is very hoppy. This has definitely got a serious hoppy kick to it, but, and saying this as someone who's not the biggest IPA drinker, this is more balanced. For me, this is a more pleasant drinking experience than the Hop Stupid. I can't believe I'm saying this. If I had a very small amount of this, I think the flavors in it are complex enough I would enjoy it more than even just sort of the basic IPA. You know, I was expecting to drink this and just find my mouth turning into a desert. That hasn't happened. Maybe we should have ended with this one, where I can't take it anymore, because I was ranking these assuming that the hop levels were just gonna keep going up and up and up. That's not really the case. And I'm more okay with this one. And based on my personal assessment, in dead last, we have Hop Stupid. I can't do this beer. I'm sorry, I can't do it. In fourth place, we have the Lagunitas IPA. And this one is, you know, it's perfectly fine, very easily drinkable, and I could see how this is kind of their best-selling beer. Now, in third place, we have Lagunitas Maximus. And this is, I think, without question, the biggest surprise of the episode. I was expecting this thing to turn my mouth into the Sahara. Now, even based on my taste preferences though, it's not quite my style, but it's, I would honestly say, kind of like this, but just better in all ways. Second place, we have Little Something, nose art of a B-17 from World War II, which I love. And this is a very nice beer. And I think what I like about it is it's got little bits of flavors from kind of all over the spectrum. And you also have a little bit of hoppiness, but not too much. Nice sort of balanced trifecta of all three things, which is great. And then finally in first place is the Little Something Hazy. What I like about it is it's like the Little Something, but I think because it's just a little bit more understated and there's a little bit more of that malt there, which I really do appreciate. And the haziness, kind of the unfilteredness is nice. It's got a bit more of a full body to it. So you've got kind of the flavor of the Little Something, but it's just a little heavier, it's a little fuller. And I think because just the bright notes and the hoppiness are just toned down just that much more, it suits my personal palate a little bit better. And it would be the beer of all of these that I could easily have more than one of. So yeah, all in all, I think it makes sense for why Lagunitas is a very successful American craft brewer. If you don't like the little air quotes, I'll just say, you know, craft brewer with an asterisk. Since again, technically they're now a subsidiary, but still in terms of the products that they're making, they're very much in line with the notion of what we think of when we think of American craft brewing, big IPA focus, really getting into those hoppy undertones, hoppy notes with the beer. And if you're really into that stuff, you should like Lagunitas, and you probably already have tried some, and you might be drinking it on a regular basis. Let me know what you think in the comments, if you agree with my assessment, if you don't agree. Again, as always, if you wanna tell me kind of your opinions on these flavors and why you prefer IPAs or you don't, totally fine. Always looking for some good discussion. Just, as always, try to keep it civil. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, why not go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button, or maybe even leave a comment if you're feeling exceptionally bold. If you're not bothered, that's totally fine too. And be on the lookout for more beer-related content on this channel going forward.